All right, this is Clint from the Doorway too, hanging out with the members of Void Witch. Why don't we start off the very simple way we can always do it? Adrian, you can start first and just say what you do in the band and kind of and go from there. Each one of you.
Cool. My name's Adrian. I play drums in Void Witch.
Jason, you want to go next?
Yeah. Hey, I'm Jason. I'm one of the guitar players in Void Witch.
And Luke.
Yeah, I'm Luke. I do bass and vocals.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So the first question I'm going to have is kind of a little bit about the music itself. So what do you think the differences are? Because I've listened to your demo. I've listened to the 3-song kind of EP that you did originally and then the full-length album. Progression-wise, what do you feel is the difference from the demo to Heart Playing Presence now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Kind of hard to say because honestly, like we've kind of been like working on these songs like all at the same time. Like, you know, some of the songs that made the album we wrote at the very beginning, like in that same batch of songs that ended up on the demo. Like, in fact, Malevolent Demiurge was, you know, kind of kicked around as possibly being on the demo, but we decided to save it. So I think a lot of the progression that you hear is kind of like writing and rewriting because the process took so long. Like we really like had a long time to kind of like hone these songs and tinker with them for a while. So they kind of, I think, like, you know, evolved just from that, just from it taking so long to make this record. I don't know if you guys have a different perspective on that too.
I agree with that. Yeah, and I think also just, you know, like getting to know each other over the last couple of years, kind of like getting to know each other's things, that, you know, styles and like the stuff that feels good in the practice room. You know, I think that kind of like feeds into how things come together and stuff. You know.
You got anything, Adrian? You want to add anything to it?
No, I would agree with what they said too. It's really we're all still like getting tight with each other and all that over the years that we've played. So our songwriting is like slowly evolving into what you're starting to hear.
Cool. So I want to ask about the name Void Witch because it's kind of unusual for the style of music. Like I really wouldn't say like if I was listening to your brand new album, like Void Witch would be the first band name that came it happens more than you believe. It's cool. But like, could you kind of talk to me how you picked the name and how does it fit with the music?
It's a pain in the ass to pick out a metal band name in, well, I guess what, 2021. It's even worse now. There's, you know, every cool name you come up with, there's 50 bands on Metallum with the same fucking name. So it's hard, you know, like back in the 80s, you could be like, you know, Death, man, no one's picked that. Now it's like, you know, so we had like 40 names like on a spreadsheet that were all like tossing around. We eventually like, we could, you know, we like put it out to a bunch of our friends and had a bunch of people vote like which of these names do you like, because we were having like a hard time figuring out a name, you know.
Yeah, I think we ended up like doing a Survey Monkey. Like we narrowed it down to like 12 different names and we each voted on it, and then like Luke said, sent it out to some other people, and Void Witch was the one that overwhelmingly won. And we're like, all right, you know, we can live with that. It's kind of a dumb name, and we have seen like some, you know, press saying like, hey, it's kind of a stupid name, but these guys rule. It's like we agree with that.
Yeah, a little generic sounding, but you know, I don't know. It sounds like a metal band at least, I guess.
And it's something you don't forget. So you know what, that's really good too. Like that's the way I look at it. Like is, you know, so many bands try and be the most graphic gore or horror or the doomiest. Like you're not going to forget Void Witch. Like you're always going to remember that band name. So cool. No, awesome. All right. So put your thinking caps on, gentlemen. I'm going to ask you kind of a thinking man's question. If somebody came up to you and said you could have 4 words to describe your band, how would you each one of you describe it with just 4 words?
Spooky. Heavy. Crunchy and spatial.
That's good. Damn, dude.
You guys, you got either one of you want to put anything else to it, or you like those 4? If you got other ideas, throw them my way.
Yeah, I'll just go off the dome. Chunky, offbeat, horripulating, and you know, we'll go with nostalgic.
Okay.
Yeah. Heavy, quirky, melodic. I like spooky too. Adrian said that.
Cool.
I'm gonna
Hey,
double down
there's
on that.
there's nothing wrong with pulling down on a word. That just means that it was right to be said. So I'm totally good with that. All right. So next question I'm going to say is I love the mix of the guttural, the proggy, the doomy, the thrash metal, the melodies, as you said. Like it's this weird mix. Like I love that people call you a death doom band when I think that's only like one corner of the band really. How was it hard to kind of layer all those different sounds mixed together?
I think one cool thing about the death doom genre is it gives you license to do quite a bit of different stuff. You can have ripping death metal riffs, you can have, kind of quiet melodic passages and kind of everything in between. And all of us, we're all, like 40-ish-year-old dudes have been listening to metal forever, so we got a lot of different things we like, and it's nice to be able to pull from all that stuff.
Yeah. I think it was hard to, not throw more stuff in there because we have so many different influences and like so many different ideas. Like we kind of had to like self-edit to a degree and kind of like, make things more concise. I think if you had heard these songs maybe a few years ago when we were still workshopping them, they were even more all over the place.
Adrian, anything? Or are you good with that?
I'm good with that.
Awesome. All right. So, Luke, I'm going to jump onto what you kind of said. So I want to talk about, and this is in the most positive way possible, the trippy melodies that are on this record. Like they come out of left field. Like I was, when I first heard the record, I was thinking it was going to be more of kind of a thrash inspired death doom record. And then like these almost voivod or like Gorgut-esque kind of trippy melodies come in. Like, and I hear a lot of that, like Voivod and Gorguts in your band, all right? And I don't know if those are influences or not, but if they are, then guess what? You did a great job. But could you kind of talk about that? Was that done intentionally, or that just kind of happened as you were writing the songs?
I mean, I think that's all, we certainly like those bands, we had one song that's still sort of in the ether that is more of a dissonant death metal song that's kind of in that Gorguts kind of vibe. Maybe that'll make its way to light at some point. But yeah, I think, like Jason and Nick both have just like an awesome sense for melody, and they do the bulk of the writing of the music. And yeah, like, and I think it's, you gotta, in this day and age, make something interesting, because a lot of stuff's been done already. And I think we're trying to reach into our influences and make something that's fresh and, that will catch people on their toes a little bit,
Good answer for everybody, or you guys want to add? All right, cool. Awesome. So I'm going to talk about the Doom comparisons now. Like, all right, I'm probably one of the only guys in the world that don't hear the Hooded Menace as much as like everybody else hears in your band. Okay. The two bands that I really, well, actually the three bands that I really hear kind of when I think of Doom Death in the style you do are Incantation, Paradise Lost, and Saturnus. All right. Those are the three bands I hear the most. The death metal totally reminds me of like mid-period Incantation when they were almost a doom metal band, but they kind of swerved back to being death metal. But you remind me so much melodically and like death doom wise as Saturnus. Like if there was a band that I would like say grabs me that, because if you had like layers of keyboards in your band, you would sound like Saturnus to me. So I kind of want to ask, like, as far as Death Doom, like what inspired you to bring those layers or elements into the band?
Yeah, I think, Paradise Lost and Incantation are definitely on the nose. Those were intentional. And I'll say I'm less familiar with Saturnus, but I always love it when someone says like, hey, you guys sound like you're influenced by this band. You have to be influenced by this band. Like we get that with Temple of Void a lot. And like, we actually are not all that familiar with Temple of Void, but we hear that a lot. But Hooded Menace, I think, is definitely one of those that we were influenced by, especially Nick. The Hooded Menace is Nick's absolute favorite band in the world. And I think that was kind of like the the starting point for us is kind of writing in that style. And as you know, more people started contributing to the writing, we started to get more of that like Paradise Lost and Incantation and that different mix, and even pulling in like the grungier elements that you hear as well. So yeah, some of it is intentional, but also some of it is just like complete accident.
So is this going to be kind of one guy answers the question? And the other people ever?
No, I totally agree with that. Yeah. So trying to say I'm not as familiar with them either. Yeah, and that is funny. Like we said, the Temple of Void thing. Like I didn't really listen to them until people were like, "Hey, you guys sound like Temple of Void." And I was like, listening to them, like, "Oh shit, yeah, we both have Void in the name." Oh, oops. But yeah, no. We had like a mission statement. I think like I came into the band. I kind of knew Nick 'cause we jammed a little bit before, and then kind of lost touch. And then he put out like a post on Reddit, and he was like, "Hey man, I want to like just make like a Hooded Menace ripoff band or something like that." This is like very early stages, right? And I was like, "Shit, that sounds awesome. I want to do that." And then like as we all kind of like came on board, like we had like shared like a bunch of like touch point kind of bands beyond like Paradise Lost and Incantation were definitely on there. Of course, Hooded Menace as well and stuff. That's like a starting point, and then kind of things went from there. So.
And don't get me wrong, I hear the Hooded Menace elements and layers, but I don't think it's as forward pushing as people make it in the reviews or like the things I see on forum boards talk about your band. So no, very cool. All right, so there's two songs in particular on the new record that I want to talk about to you because it's what made me want to interview you. So let's talk about these two songs. So the first one's Supernova, and the reason why I want to talk about that song is it's like the best mix of like funeral doom, old school death metal kind of mixed together. Here's another two bands you may have never heard of or not know about, but like it reminds me so much of like Ross Algathy or DeLorean, which are like bands from overseas back in the 90s that were on Avant Records. But it gives me that kind of vibe. So could you kind of talk about that song and tell me how it came about? Because like if I want to play somebody a Death Doom song, I'm going to throw Supernova their way now because it really kind of just gives me that feeling. So.
Yeah, I can speak to that one. I wrote Supernova and demoed that and shared it with the guys, and it was definitely one of those songs that had a lot of shade and light in it. Like it was unlike anything we had written before. So I think we really wanted to work on that song, but it's also like the hardest song I think for us to really figure out on this record. For the longest time, we didn't know how to begin that song or how to end it. It was originally much shorter and started with the kind of like clean guitar break towards the beginning, and it just wasn't working. So we just workshopped that song and workshopped it over and over and over. And I think it's kind of a miracle that it came out the way that it did. I think once we figured out the arrangement of it, it was very clear that it would really come down to like mixing and mastering for that song to work. Like it had to have this huge atmosphere. So, I think a big part of why that song hits the way that it does is because of Andrew Oswald's mixing job that he did on this, and even Andrew Hernandez's engineering work in the studio just played a huge part in the way the song sounds. Because if it didn't sound the way that it did, I don't know that it would hit the same way that it does. I don't know if you guys have any perspective on that. But we kind of like run our hands on that song forever.
I will say that song did sound a lot different when we did start to work on it in pre-production. So a big shout out to Andrew Hernandez, who kind of, like gave us the platform to hear it differently, which is almost like kind of slightly, I feel like, rewrote that way to feel differently than what the demo we were working off of did. So it's almost like we recorded that and then we had to learn what we put out in the studio, which just breathed differently. It just had a different pulse, if I remember correctly. Because there's this one part in there that I think just like breaks down this, that's really swung almost. That reminded me of like old 90s, like Pantera, this like really swung heavy part. But that song really, I remember, came to life after we recorded it. Luke, you were about to say something. Sorry about that.
Oh yeah, no, that's I totally agree with what you guys are saying. Yeah, like I even like, I mean, the vocals that I originally wrote for that song, I was like unhappy with and completely rewrote, you know. And yeah, so that song kind of like came through a few different like evolutions to get where it was. Then it's like, yeah, it's an awesome freaking song. It's a really fun one to play live and stuff with that huge like intro, just the you know, and then like it's got a vibe to it, and definitely has that funeral doom kind of flavor, which is not something we like touch on all the time, but it's cool style of music and stuff. So
Very cool.
I think that song is like the perfect illustration of you know, how just second guessing ourselves a lot and going back and writing and rewriting things like ultimately made the songs what they ended up being on record.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So the other song is the title track, Horror Planning Presence. And the reason why is, and I'm glad Adrian's here, is the drumming is fucking insane on that goddamn song. Okay. I'm not really sure it's a human being playing. So like, I'm glad that I actually got to see the person that's actually playing the drums on this. But no, I want to, I just want to kind of talk about it because it like mixes elements of jazz, prog, blast beats, melodies. Like if there was a song that I would say, hey guys, if you listen to this song and like this, you're going to like the album because it kind of has a little bit of everything in it. That's the song I would give them. So if you, the three of you could talk about that, but like Adrian, man, I'm just giving you props because the drums are just goddamn insane on that record.
Thank you. I'll start this one off first. Nick, fuck you. This song kicked my ass. I remember after, what was it? Just a brutal summer tour that I went on, and then having to go into the studio and like, without like playing for like 2 months, had to do that. And I think I remember just lying on the floor, just like, fuck this. Oh my God, can't we just put a fucking drum machine on it or something? Oh, that whooped my ass. He totally, I think, wrote a lot of those drum parts, and I had to humanize that. And props to Nick on that, because that song was a pretty big challenge that I had to make all those parts, you know, move. And again, with that song, how it was presented versus how it recorded, we've been like practicing, you know, the certain sounds that we've kind of developed and honed in on that. So that's a lot of that's to Nick for that writing my drum part big time on that. So I can't take all the credit for it, but delivering it was the biggest challenge. And now hearing it, I even remember driving with a buddy of mine, and I was like, all right, I got to listen to these masters. Look, I'm kind of nervous because this one song just whooped my ass. And I remember listening back to it. I was like, all right, maybe we're not that bad after all. Okay, that's pretty good. And thank you, Andrew, for being so patient with me. Oh my God. That was a fun one.
Oh God.
Okay.
Sorry.
Your turn.
Kid running around.
No, either one. I don't care.
Yeah, you know, I think yeah, I can attest to what Adrian went through. I think I was there with you in the studio when you recorded that song, like both the challenge of it. And I can also attest that it truly was a human being that played it, because I watched you record that. But yeah, you know, I think that is kind of like the centerpiece of the record, even though it's the last song. I think it's the song that we're probably the most proud of, which is why we chose it for the title track, and why we chose it as the lead off single for this record, because we felt that it was like our best foot that we could put forward and really representative of the progress that we had made from, you know, our demo and our EP to this record. So, you know, it's a song that we're incredibly proud of. Nick, our other guitar player who couldn't join us, he's the one who wrote that song. And I think, you know, it's one of my favorite Void Witch songs that we've ever written, you know, either that's out on record or has yet to be released.
I think one thing that's interesting contrast just in like how the songs came together between like that and Supernova is Supernova was a song we've been kicking around for a while. We kind of worked on a lot. We practiced a lot in the rehearsal studio. We never played Horror Planning Presence as a band. We did that in the studio. So like it was a song we all had it was demoed, and we all kind of like, you know, did our homework, and we, you know, it wasn't really a song we had in our repertoire really, and we all had to kind of like figure it out and make it happen in the studio.
Cool. Yeah, like I said, it's the most diverse and interesting. Like the guitar layers, the way the vocals, like there's probably 9 different vocal styles on that song alone. Like it's so, like when I heard it, I was like, okay, I got to talk to these guys just to see what they're all about, because like you're a metal band, of course, but there's so much more than just metal in your music. And that kind of like impresses me more than anything, because the more interesting avant-garde side of things always tells me more about a band than I can hear bludgeoning, I can hear blast beats all the time, but like that kind of gives me the feedback of where the band's mind is. And like I could tell like you like a whole bunch of different styles of music like myself, where metal may be the bonding glue, but like there's jazz and there's punk rock moments, there's like groove moments, like you said, Adrian. Like you can hear like and again, I'm gonna just be very generic, but like that NOLA kind of southern swing sound that you can hear from time to time. And I don't think it's Pantera, Adrian. I think it's more corrosion of conformity kind of vibes that are going on. I think it's Pepper Keenan kind of jumping in there and doing this stuff, because that's what it reminds me of, like when Pepper took front of the band and kind of did it. That's the kind of southern swing grooves I hear. So that's cool. So I just want to say thank you for like making an interesting record where not one of the songs are the same. Like I can listen to the album together all at once, or I can take select songs and just say, okay, today I want to listen to this one because that's the vibe or feeling I'm having. Did you do that kind of like as a question? Did you kind of do that on purpose, where the songs could be singular tracks for people to listen to as well as an album, or was that just kind of a happy accident?
I think it was a happy accident that we selected the songs that we did, because it was kind of the songs that were most ready at that time. Like we had a lot more songs that were kind of at the demo stage, and that we wanted to continue to work on and put on this record, but got to the point where we're like, all right, we need to get in the fucking studio and make this record. So the songs that were most ready were the ones that ended up on this record. I will tell you that like sequencing the songs, figuring out what song should go where, was probably the hardest part, because they are all so different and have different energies to them. We kind of kick that around a lot of times, like shuffling things and figuring out how things flow. So that took a lot of time, and it was tough.
Cool. All right. So I'm going to ask how a bunch of Texas boys got signed to Everlasting Spew. It's not like a first label that you would think that you're going to jump on, especially for the kind of music you do. I would say you're more of an outside of the fold kind of Everlasting Spew band than like what their main priorities are. How did you hook up with them, and how did this all start happening?
Yeah, I guess I can answer that one. I hate to be, jump in all the
I was
time,
just
but,
going to say, I don't know.
Yeah, it was mostly Jason who has been in communication with them, so he's a good person to answer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So the story is, we had just put out our 2-song demo in, I think it was like October of 2021, somewhere around there. And I think it maybe been out a few days. Like it was getting really good reactions, and it did way more than we ever thought it would. Like we had no expectations putting that out. We're like, we're just going to put out 2 songs, and our 15 friends on Twitter are going to like it, and maybe we'll sell a couple of shirts. But we had this huge reaction that we didn't expect. And, a couple days later, we had some DMs from, a couple of labels, and Everlasting Spew was one of those. And we started this conversation with Tito over at Everlasting Spew, who's awesome. Everybody loves Tito. Talking about, what our plans were for a future full length, would we ever plan to go on tour, things like that. And, we kind of agreed as a band that, Everlasting Spew would be a good home for us as we, continue to think about putting out a full length. We might have baited and switched them to a degree, because that demo is like way more like death metal forward, and very heavy. But I was a little nervous sharing the first like demos and original mixes for this record. It's like, it's kind of a different band than what you signed, and I was really relieved when they loved the record, and they're out there pushing it hard for us. So we really appreciate our relationship with them for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's fantastic. You can tell they love the record too. Just like literally, I got a message like when I said I was going to interview you, like they were like kids in a candy store. They were like, hell yeah, all right. Like, like that was very cool to see like that they really were happy that like the band was getting interest from people that have never really heard of them or about them before. So, on to the live thing. How would you say you are different live than in the studio? Like, I've heard a record, I haven't seen you live yet. Even though I live in Texas, I've not seen you live yet. How would you differentiate the two, record versus the band on stage?
I mean, it's a different experience recording versus playing live. It's a lot more fun playing live than trying to get perfect tracks and stuff. I mean, I enjoy playing live. And I think we all do. It's not something we can do all the time just with our jobs and kids and responsibilities and stuff. So we're trying to hit like a every 2 month ish kind of gig. Is sort of where what our goal is right now. And yeah, we've been mostly able to do that. Thank you for your contribution there. Oh my gosh. Be so for real. Sorry, I'm working on my Gen Alpha slang. Monkey, I'm just being recorded. Go away. Okay. Sorry. Where were we?
Good.
Yeah, playing
You
live.
talking about live.
I think we do justice to these songs live. There's not much that gets left out. I mean, there's a few like guitar layering and stuff that's kind of done in the studio, but like you're gonna get a similar vibe from our live performance. I think is just you're gonna hear on the album.
Yeah,
I think it's been.
go
go
ahead, Adrian. Go.
It's been pretty well received live. I'm noticing our songs get played a little faster. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Live, which in some parts I can't believe I can, pull that stuff off. But I think the live stuff's coming together. I would like to do more shows. Just but one thing that I feel sometimes with like the live shows and in metal circuits, it's like it can get really muddy really quick. So a lot of the times it's been fun to play live because it's like you really got to pay attention to where you're at in the songs and whatnot, when like the whole area could just be like blaring and and all of that. But man, I've been having really good responses from when we do the live shows, and I'd personally like to do more of them when the time comes. But yeah, Jason, you?
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think we sound great live. We sound great in the rehearsal room, but I think we sound great in pretty much any venue because Adrian, like you make it a point to, make friends with every sound guy at every place that we play. So I think that we get a little extra sugar in the monitors for that.
Yeah, what kind of kick drum mic you using there, buddy? Huh? You compressing that? What are you doing there? Well, let me get your water.
That's good.
You
No,
help running that?
yeah, that's important. You want to have good sound when you play live. So, cool. No, thank you for that. All right. So here's another thinking question. Put on your thinking caps, guys. Has there been any feedback in a positive or negative way on this record that has literally just shocked you, like that you did not expect to hear so far from the record being out? I'd like kind of a blurb from each one of you, if at all possible. Like something you heard that was like, oh, I've never heard the band in that light before. Or like, wow, like what band are they listening to? Because this is definitely not what we did. So.
I kind of find it funny that a lot of people like to, I think, mention that we're dads often. And I don't know if you guys realize this, but having a job playing metal of all things and having toddlers will run you down more than ever. And it's like, trust me, we're trying to play these shows. But I'm kind of amazed with the amount of just reviews. Given if it's bad or good, a lot of it has been really good, but just the amount. A lot of people have started talking, and friends of mine been reaching out that I wouldn't even know like this stuff, or just like, holy crap, the production. And I was like, we put money into it. We were serious about it. And I kind of don't even know what to say to their reactions, because I'm still like amazed that we even have a record label. Like from the demo, I was like, what, we're signed? What the fuck's going on? So this is all still fun for me. I'm just like, oh. So
yeah. I've been getting a kick out of the reviews too. I think I'm probably close to being done reading them. You know, it's been like a week since it was released, so now you just kind of like gotta let it be. But you know, I really enjoy the reviews that seem to go on a deeper level and talk about, you know, what they're hearing. Like I really enjoyed watching your review where you just like listen to the song and kind of react in real time. Like I got a kick out of that because I mean, anybody who's made music or played music has had that experience of, you know, having their friends over be like, hey man, listen to my shit. And then you put it on and then you just watch them the whole time and watch their reactions. So like I enjoyed that review. But I think my favorite blurb from you know, the reviews on this album is it was actually Greg, who is the editor-in-chief over at Metal Injection. He did like a release roundup and he said that we sound like Bloodbath 10 miles under the ocean. So that was like the favorite thing that anyone's ever said about us.
Nice.
Yeah, I think you know it is cool like getting all these reviews and stuff, and it is a little mind blowing. You know, like when we started this out, I think we all had kind of like the expectation that we'd play a couple of, you know, local Austin shows and, you know, like 10 people would give a shit, and, you know, it would just be a kind of a fun like hobby that we would all have, you know. And yeah, like the demo got way more attention than I think any of us expected, and then getting signed wasn't expected. And then now having like, yeah, like legitimate websites, you know, posting nice stuff about us is an odd thing. It's kind of weird. Like some of the stuff is, you know, like one thing will be like, oh, like I you know, I like it, but this one part sucks. And then someone else will be like the opposite. Oh yeah, that you know, the part that somebody said sucked, that's my favorite thing, you know, and or whatever. Yeah, so there's a lot of yeah, I'll hear something, you know, about like, I don't know, something that maybe I did, and the someone has a negative comment about it. I'm like, oh fuck. And then the next review is like, oh no, that was great, that part. So yeah, anyways, that's a little interesting to kind of see those things and try to, you know, like, yeah, come to terms with it. And yeah.
You know you made a good band if people say the same thing, good and bad, on the same parts. And that's like what I've noticed the most about your band is like you can't make rhyme or reason of it. People love certain parts, hate the one part, and then like and I think it's where you come from. And that's what I was going to kind of ask as the next question. Do you feel like your fan base is more of a death metal fan base, or do you feel it's more of a doom metal fan base? Because from the reviews, I'm going to say the death metal kids love you like 10-1. Like doom kids get confused by it when it's not slow BPMs and organs and just guttural crawling a lot of times, I've noticed. And like you said, death doom is very different because it has that death metal elements in it. But do you feel that like death metal is more where your fan base is coming from, or do you feel like doom is?
I think that's kind of hard to answer. I mean, because we kind of straddle the line, but like, yeah, we're never going to be a band without blast beats or death metal riffs, you know. So like, that's just so much fun to play, you know. And like, if like almost, I mean, I think every one of our songs has some death metal riff in it, and that's probably always going to be the case, you know. Like, so yeah, I can see how maybe the death metal people who kind of dabble in doom or versus instead of vice versa. Yeah, but I don't know, you know.
Yeah, kind of hard to say. I'll have to start paying attention to the shirts that we see in the crowd. But I mean, we played some different bills. Like we played some bills that were like way more like trad and doom metal oriented. We played bills that were like more black and death metal oriented, and I think that we fit pretty well on either one. You know, so I feel pretty fortunate that we have that kind of like crossover appeal.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to say to it, Adrian?
No, I actually enjoy where we're at. I'm just trying to be you know, if Vinnie Paul played in Cannibal Corpse.
Nice.
Skinny Paul. But yeah, no, it's like I really one big motivator to me is I hadn't played like this style of drumming in like 20 years. So when Jason was telling me about this, I was like, fuck, I wanna play with you guys, kind of like as a joke, just needed some escapism at that moment. It was one of those things that it's like the last 15-20 years that I was playing was like a lot of blues stuff. So when this came about and there were certain elements that, you know, Nick and Jason would do, I was like, man, I just want to do a double bass thing over here and play like a jazz, not a jazz, but like a blues shuffle on the bell.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden it was like, oh man, that sounded like this, like one little breakdown in Cannibal Corpse. But wait, there's that, I just brought up Pantera because I just thought of that shuffle thing. But no, I don't really know where we would fit in the Death or Doom thing, but a lot of those death metal shows that we have played, I do see those guys really
Yeah.
a lot more receptive to it than the black metal guys.
Cool. No, awesome.
Respectfully.
No, fair enough. All right. So talk to me about this goddamn album cover, because it's the most confusing thing I've ever seen in my entire existence.
It's what we could afford.
I don't want to hear about the afford. No, but you just said black metal. Like, if I looked at this record, I would think you're a goddamn black metal band, just from like the minimalism and the like disgusting element of it. But yet, like, I get doom bands and death metal bands do that too, but this is way more of like a black metal looking cover. How do you feel that it fits with the music that you made?
Well, I was a fan of Jaime Zubarza's. I think we'd all kind of seen his stuff around. He's an Austin guy, and he does a lot of like psych and like free jazz and like rock band like posters. He's done album covers for those kind of bands and stuff. A lot of his stuff's really colorful with like kind of primary colors, and it's very psychedelic and abstract. And we have some of those kind of elements on the album, and I think the title track in particular, it's sort of like touches on like a distrust of reality, and losing touch of reality, that kind of stuff. So it kind of fits in with those vibes. Actually, like, I sent him the lyrics for that song when he was working on the artwork, to kind of give him a vibe for what we're going for. And then we wanted that, like, some reference to the hooded figure from our demo. We wanted it to be black and white and minimalist, which is all of our like artwork, all of our covers have been that. So he kind of did that in his distinctive style, and it kind of hit all the notes we wanted, and he did a really good job.
Yeah, he also, I don't think and no disrespect, Jaime, I don't know this for sure, but it's like, I don't think I've ever seen any of his work with any metal bands. It's mostly been a lot of like indie rock bands, psych bands, a lot of posters. And I always just thought it was this really unique style that looked good on posters, especially his skulls. It's like, oh, those are evil looking. But
no, it's cool.
Yeah.
Jason, you got anything else you want to add to it?
Yeah, I think we're still figuring out like what the art direction is for our band, but I think one thing that we all agree on is that like that minimalistic approach seems to fit best, and I think we're all aligned that we don't want to do like a traditional genre cover. As much as I love Dan Seagrave, like, doesn't make sense for Void Witch. So I think we'll continue to do weird covers, and I think that'll help us kind of like break through the noise in the genre for sure.
So I have two more questions that I'm going to ask, and then I'll let you guys have a good Sunday to yourselves again. But the first one is, it's more of a comment than a question, but I kind of want to get your thoughts on it because I can't let it go away. I am a huge 90s heavy indie rock fan. All right. And I hear a lot of like touch and go. I hear a lot of like old sub pop kind of style guitar tones. So Jason, because you're here and you're the guitar player, I'm going to hit you towards this a little bit more. Now, maybe the other two, you can talk about it, but are you a huge fan of like that noisy kind of dirgy feedback tones from the mid to late 90s on, like Midwest noise rock and like grunge rock and stuff?
Oh yeah, for sure. I love that stuff. I'm a particularly huge like shoegaze fan. So I fought hard to get some of those elements in this record as well. And a lot of that is also Nick. Also, I think a lot of the stuff that you cited comes from Nick. He is a big like Stone Temple Pilots fan, like the DeLeo brothers. Like, I think you can hear that in some of his leads. So a lot of that comes from him, and the more shoegazy stuff comes from me. But yeah, there's definitely a love and appreciation for that college radio 90s stuff.
Luke or Adrian, you got anything to add to that at all? Were you happy to hear that in the band, or were you shocked to hear it? Or
Luke, do you want to answer first?
Oh, yeah, that was something that, those elements were something that we kind of talked about bringing in, I think, kind of from the beginning in our mission statement, is bringing in some of that like 90s rock kind of stuff and grunge kind of stuff. But yeah, like in a way that makes sense in a death doom band, I guess, you know. And I think one thing that, I mean, it's maybe true is we're trying to get away with, you know, a lot of stuff within the confines of our genre, you know, like we can still call us a death doom band, but we're doing maybe some different things, you know. And I think that's kind of one of those elements.
This is funny, but I don't think these last two things that we recorded will really show this. But in terms of like the drum stuff, I've been falling in love with a lot of the 80s and 90s like power toms, and it's kind of just awesome. I got this old Square Badge 80s Gretsch kit that Rage Against the Machine used to record and a lot of other bands used, and it's like it just gives what you put into it. And even like Dave Grohl on like the Queens Against the Stone Age. What am I trying to say? Well, whatever bands he was in, Queens of the Stone Age. Queens of the Stone Age. I was like, what am I trying to say? But he played those drums as well in the recording, and I'm starting to like watch his older stuff and those guys like Mike Borden, and just seeing how they were just hitting the living dog shit out of these drums, and I was like, I kind of want to start moving that in there with those heavier things. Yeah. So
no, and it does show in this record. I mean, not as much, but like the Mike Borden from Faith No More, that shit shows on your drum playing on this record, because you're not heavy on the kick drum, you're heavy on the floor toms like he is. Like, and that's like an impressive thing. Not a lot of drummers do that. They don't use the floor toms as the heavy tool. And like, I love hearing that in your music. So kudos to that, my friend. Kudos. Yeah, no, absolutely. And Jason, I'm so glad you said shoegaze. I didn't want to bring it up. I thought it was going to be a bad word to bring here. So I'm like, I totally heard slow dive, like riffs, like being like played through this band. And now you make me feel okay that I hear it like while I'm listening to this record. So.
Oh yeah, no shame. In fact, like when we are like writing songs and like transcribing them for everyone else to learn, like we'll give kind of stupid names to different parts. And there's a part in Malevolent Demiurge that we just call like the Smashing Pumpkins riff, because it's just a literal rip off of like something that Billy Corgan would play back on Siamese Dream.
Nice. So the last question is going to be for all of you. I would like an answer from each one of you. I do this almost in every interview. So just so you know, if there was one band that you could have take your music and make it their own, who would you want to take one of your songs and rework it into their sound?
Just for fun, Ween. Seeing Dean Ween play your guitar riffs would be hilarious. All right, hold on. I'll rethink about that.
No, that's fine. Yeah. I don't care who goes first. It doesn't matter. So.
I want to hear Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum do Horripilating Presence.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Sleepy Time live? It is.
Yeah, a bunch of times. Yeah.
It's like
I grew up in the Bay Area, and you know they were based out of Oakland forever, and I saw them a bunch of times. Yeah, they're awesome.
I've seen them like 3 times, and every time it's a mind-blowing experience. That's why I was just asking, like, because records are one thing, but live they are such a different beast.
Yeah, we all just saw them on their tour that they came through. Which hopefully won't be their last tour ever, but
right.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Jason?
Jason?
I think, man, so hard to think of. If I could see Alice in Chains play Thousand Eyes Stalactite, I think that would be pretty satisfying, because whenever I hear that song, which Luke wrote, I hear Alice in Chains in that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And then Adrian, did you want to give a real answer, or Ween?
Yeah,
I love Ween. So I don't care.
No, that was so random. I just was like, oh, that'd be funny. I would like to see or hear Opeth do Horripilating Presence. Wow. So I would want
Opeth clean version Opeth, or Opeth death metal Opeth?
Oh, I don't know. Both of them are so good. I want to hear both.
Yeah, but like I said, it looks like they're kind of going back to their death metal days now. So, if you ask them now, there might be a lot of growls in it where, 2 records ago there wasn't. So I'm just kind of interested in what your thoughts are.
I think they could do it. I saw them live not that long ago. They all still got it.
Yeah, they do. No, I don't.
That was fun, Jason, by the way.
Yeah, we went to that together. That new Opeth track, it's great, but I can't help but feel that the growls on that track are just baked. Like that's gonna be the only song that has them on
Yeah,
that.
I feel
Oh,
the
man.
same exact way. I feel like it's going to be one death song, and all the rest of it's going to be 70s prog music. Like that's
Yeah,
what we're
which is fine with me. Don't ask Nick about Opeth. If he were to talk about it, they all passed away in a car crash after the record was released.
There's a lot of people like that, you know. That's cool. I know, but guys, this has been awesome. Thank you so very much for doing this. I really appreciate it. Like your record, I don't do many interviews, all right? Maybe 10, 15 a year. So like when I ask a band to do it, it's because I love the record that I hear. And like this record, if people don't get it, I'm not politically correct. They're fucking morons. All right. They're literally morons. Because if you want a metal record in 2024 that has a little bit of everything for anybody, like you don't have to listen to the entire record. You can pick a couple of songs and just be in awe. And then if you're in a different style, you can pick the other songs and be in awe. Like that's what you need in music today, is like to be able to. I miss the days I went to record stores and I would walk over to the guy and be like, "What is this? What does it sound like?" Because from the album cover alone, I love it. And that's kind of the music that you guys give me now. Like I would have immediately bought the record just from the cover alone and asked what it sounded like, and then brought it home and did it. So, like, thank you for making the music that you do. I absolutely, if you come over to Fort Worth, that's where I am. I will absolutely come see you. Unfortunately, Austin's a little bit of a jaunt for me, but like I said, but if you come to my area, I will be there with you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Yeah, man. Yeah, we're hoping to branch out a little bit to, elsewhere in Texas over the next couple of months. So, maybe this winter or something, you'll see us up your way. We'll see how things pan out. But yeah.
Cool. This is Clint from the Doorway too, hanging out with the guys from Void Witch. Again, it's been an absolute pleasure. You guys have a great weekend, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
Okay.
Bye.